Yo, what's up my fellow brethren, it's your boy Elusiive and welcome back to the channel. And in this video I'm going to be showing you guys the best Black Ops 6 settings on controller. So if you guys are like struggling with your sensitivities, this can help you out, or aim or accuracy or whatever the case may be. You guys want to use these as default settings to somewhat adjust because my sensitivity may be too fast or too slow. So you'd want to slightly tweak it to find your perfect spot, because it'll help you find out what your best settings are for you specifically. And honestly, I feel like these are just the best settings on controller. So if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like and sub if you're new. But not that's over, let's get into these BO6 settings. Alright, starting off in the controller section, we're running tactical. Honestly, tactical is just the best overall, as I've mentioned several times for years now. It just gives you the fastest reaction when it comes to sliding, and sliding is just the best overall when it comes to movement. Now, if this was older CODs, you would have used stick and move, because sliding didn't exist, or it wasn't as good and it wasn't as useful. But since sliding is here, you definitely want to go with tactical every single time. I use an elite controller, so I have paddles on the back. I have 3. I have slide on the back, jump on the back, and Y on the back, so I could swap weapons on my back paddle. Even without the elite controller, the best is still going to be tactical, due to having the faster slide reaction, which can allow you to break people's cameras if you do all the extra movement, which I have made a movement guide video like a month ago. If you guys want to check that out, you can just look through the channel, or I might leave it in the comments. But tactical, definitely useful. Horizontal and vertical, I run a 1.8 and a 1.5. I did increase my sensitivity because I actually started playing Marvel a lot more, which I mentioned like every single video. If you guys want to see some Marvel gameplay, let me know down in the comments. But I just got used to the third person movement being the same, since the ADS and the turning speeds are the exact same. There's no ADS speed difference like in COD, how you can have an ADS speed and a horizontal and vertical speed. It's just like all flat speeds. And I just felt like the game felt somewhat slow when I came back to COD, so that's why I increased my horizontal speed. But I feel like a good spot you'd want to be is somewhere between 1.5 to 1.9. I don't think you want to go past 1.9. 1.9 might be a little bit fast, but I feel like the sweet spot is probably maybe 1.7 or 1.65, somewhere in there. But definitely a horizontal, majority of the times you want faster than your vertical. You can't have them the same speeds, but you never really want your vertical faster than your horizontal, because the majority of the times you're looking side to side, not up and down. But if you guys feel like this vertical is slow, then you can increase the speed. I didn't touch any of this. You guys can add the bumper ping if you guys play like Warzone or whatever. You guys can also use the swap, which will change your buttons from RT to RB and the LT to LB, which means you'll shoot with these rather than these, which can give you faster reaction. But I feel like RB and LB just break way too easily on controllers now, and I do not want to put a lot of pressure on those bumpers to where they go out and then the controller is GG. So that's why I just don't really do this, and also got used to also using the triggers. But bumpers just go out way too fast in controllers, and I do not feel like throwing another controller to the dirt practically and buying another one, because my bumpers did go out on this controller. I tried everything, alcohol in the bumpers, took it apart and all sorts of stuff, but what did work was the WD-40. I took off the faceplate and put on the WD-40 on the bumper right there, and actually been working since then. That was about a year ago almost. So if you guys are having a controller that's having bumper issues, try some WD-40, no cap. But now let's get back into the video. I don't run vibrations, no point. It kills your controller battery faster, and it also makes you inaccurate. Dead zones, I run 5 for the left stick and 8 for the right. I have a little bit of stick drift when it comes to my right stick, so that's why I have it a little bit higher. I actually used to have this lower. As I mentioned every single time, go as low as you can before stick drift starts becoming absolutely insane to control. So if you guys have like slight stick drift, you can work with it, but if you guys feel like it does throw off your aim or get you killed sometimes, then just increase the sensitivity to where you don't get stick drift at all. But you're definitely not going to want to run 0 and your character's just moving off by itself. So as I mentioned, go as low as you can. The left stick, I just put it at 90 so I don't have to move my analog as much to get to the max. A lot of people actually run this down in the 40s or whatever, but I just didn't really like it that low due to the acceleration speed, which I don't even know if I can tamper with. I didn't even see it. I might have missed it, but the acceleration speed, it's once you hit the maximum, it adds more speed, which can add a little bit more inconsistency, which is why I didn't like it too low. But if there is an acceleration speed, I probably would drop it to 0, but I don't know, I just probably didn't see it. But you guys can tamper with this all you like. Definitely just go as low as you can when it comes to the stick minimum. And for the left trigger and the right trigger, both have 0. This just makes it to where the game will instantly pick up on your trigger practically, so it'll have no pressure required for the game to pick it up. But you guys can have this on a little bit higher number if you guys feel like you accidentally aim in or shoot sometimes. This is just up to you. Now in the aiming section, Let's look at the sensitivity multiplier. I honestly didn't touch any of this. I actually did think for a minute that this might have been the inconsistency when it came to the speed boost after hitting the maximum, but this actually only applies for the focus, which you guys know those weapons that you have that say hold down on the R stick to focus. Yeah, that's what it's talking about. So this wasn't what I was looking for, but honestly, you guys can tamper with this if you'd like, but I didn't touch any of this. I just felt like it was fine. Now on to the aiming advanced settings. For the ADS sensitivity transitioning timing, I run instant. I did try gradual because I got so used to instant. When I tried gradual, it actually felt weird, but either one of these can be good. If you can get used to gradual, you can put in some work with it, but I couldn't really get used to it, so I went back to instant, and I felt like it was just better for me, which I did try out both. As I said, they were both fine. So just swap this around, try it out, and see which one you like better. It's up to you. Aim response curve type, I run dynamic. This just makes it to where the game picks up micro movements, which will allow you to be more accurate. But if you guys have like issues with, I don't know, stick drift, or you guys feel like you aren't as accurate players, you can stay on standard, and standard just makes it to where the game doesn't pick up the micro movements, so you'll rely more on target assist rather than your aim itself. For more accurate players, you can run dynamic. For the less accurate, run standard. But if you guys want to adapt or get better and you want to try out dynamic, then you do you. The custom per zoom, I run a 0.9. I usually run between a 0.7 and a 0.85, but as I mentioned before, I was playing a lot of Marvel, so I felt like it just felt slow, so that's why I boosted up to a 0.9. But I feel like the sweet spot is 0.7 to 0.85, somewhere in there. For the time zooms, I run a 1.3 on all of them. The reason I did this is because I really don't run 0.2 or 3s on normal weapons. I only ran them on like snipers when I was going for camos and stuff, and I felt like the sniper scope felt too slow to keep up with people's movement due to my ADS speed, and my horizontals were somewhat slow. So that's why I had my aim down zooms faster, so I can keep up with the opponents while I was aiming in. But if you guys feel like it's fast enough, you can run this on just a normal 1.0 on all of them, or you can lower them. It's up to you. But since my normal sensitivities were slow, I boosted up these sensitivities to where it would counter react that slow ADS speed when it came to snipers. Because when snipers, you want to kind of like flick fast, either from the hip or while aiming in. And if they're both slow, it just makes it a little bit harder to catch up to opponents that have fast movement, definitely when they're close range. So that's why I had this higher rather than lower, since my sensitivities were slower at the time. But I haven't really used snipers recently. Probably would have lowered this since now that I'm on a 1.8, but you guys can test this out. As I mentioned, if it feels too fast, lower it. If it's too slow, higher it. All right, on to the movement. I didn't touch any of this. I turned off corner slicing because I got tired of the inconsistency to where sometimes I ran next to a corner and tried to aim at somebody. It would make my sight turn even though I didn't want it to. And when I pushed out the corner, it would like re-angle, and it would just throw off my sight entirely and would get me killed sometimes. So that's why I turned it off. But if you guys like corner slicing, you can keep it on. I just didn't like the inconsistency. Also, sometimes when I would slide towards a building, it would make my gun angle as well, and it was just too much of a nuisance. So that's why I turned it off. For the slide to dive behavior, I turned on slide only because sometimes I hold down on my analog or hold down on my paddle due to either panic or just naturally pressing down on the button a little bit hard, and I felt like sometimes it would make me dive accidentally and get me killed, so that's why I went to slide only. But honestly, you guys can run just a normal tap to slide, which means tap, you slide, hold, you dive, or you can run hybrid. I just couldn't really get used to hybrid, so that's why I never really ran it, because I've been running auto tac sprint for years now, and it just feels weird when I have to tap down on the analog. So I just felt like a lot of the times I would forget about it entirely, where I have to tap down on the analog, then hit the slide button to dive. It was just too much, so that's why I didn't run it. But you guys can try out hybrid or keep it on normal tap to slide, or if you guys don't use dive at all, go slide only. For the movement advanced settings, I didn't touch any of this either. You guys can try the auto door peek, which is when you kind of like push open the door and it aims in, but I don't use that. Majority of the times we just bulldoze through the doors. But if you guys want to, you can try it out. Other than that, I didn't touch anything in here. And the same thing with the vehicle settings. I didn't touch nothing. So now let's get into combat. Combat, I didn't touch any of this. I changed the armor plates to apply all rather than have to apply one at a time, meaning I have to press the button on repeat. For the combat advanced settings, you can change the interact/reload behavior to prioritize interact if you guys play Warzone. I did run prioritize reload, but I didn't like how sometimes when I try to reload, it would make me pick up another gun, because as I mentioned, sometimes I hold down the button rather than press it by accident, and it would make me pick up a weapon rather than reload, and then I would have to look down, pick up the weapon again, and then have to reload it, and it would just get me killed. So that's why I went back to tap to reload rather than prioritize to reload. But as I mentioned, Warzone, prioritize interact is probably the best to do, so you don't run up to chest and hold them for 15 years or boxes or whatever they are called. It just depends on what you're playing. Multiplayer, tap to reload, prioritize reload, up to you. Warzone, prioritize interact, probably the best. but you can also try prioritize reload as well. But now on to the graphics. I run 120 Hz on the Xbox Series X. Turn that on if you guys have the option. I didn't touch the mode presets. For the quality, turn off all the blurs in the depth of field. It's just another form of blur when you're aiming down sight. I turned up the fidelity to 70. This is a good spot. I know a lot of people try to go to like 100 or something, and I think the normal's at 50. This just makes it to where it's a little bit sharper, which I feel like it's a little bit easier to see. But this is up to you. I feel like 70 is a good spot. And onto the view. For my FOV, I actually wasn't running 120. I just turned this on in zombies, which I forgot to change it back. But I normally ran about a 108. 120 is just too much for multiplayer. I feel like the opponents are too small, and it's a little bit harder to keep up with them, definitely at distance, or to stay on track. I feel like 108 is a good spot because it makes your enemies big enough to be seen, but it also makes your screen wide enough to where you can actually see, rather than it being extremely zoomed and someone could be standing right next to you and you wouldn't see them due to your screen being extremely zoomed. So that's why I feel like 108 is about the good sweet spot. Anything under 100 you don't want to go. Anything above 110 you wouldn't want to go. For the weapon field of view, I ran wide, just makes the weapon smaller so I get a lot more background screen, which allow me to see opponents better due to my weapon being smaller. Also forgot to mention ADS field of view affected. This just makes it to where your screen doesn't change zooms while aiming down sight. If you have it on independent, your screen will zoom into its normal default, which I think is like a 90 FOV or an 80, but without it, it stays on the FOV you're at. Camera movement, go to the lowest you can, which is 50%. This just makes it to where your screen doesn't shake as much when it comes to like grenades or explosions or whatever the case may be. This will allow you to be more accurate due to your screen not shaking as much. And for the last thing, inverted flashbang. This just makes it to where your screen goes black instead of white when you hit with the flashbang. I don't know about you, but I don't want to get retinal damage, so that's why I have this on, because I got tired of my screen going white to where I feel like I got actually flashbang in real life. Onto the audio, master game 100. Music, you can turn it down to 0, doesn't matter. Dialogue, I have it 70, high enough to be heard, but not high enough to overshadow the effects of like explosions and footsteps. Effect volume, I have it 90. You guys can have this at 100. I just feel like sometimes explosions and stuff were just a little bit too much in my ears, so that's why I lowered it, but this is all up to you. Didn't really touch that. Audio mix, I have Soccer Punch. Honestly, you can do this. You can run headphone boost bass or the Treyarch mix. All those are solid. I just have the Soccer Punch because it has a little bit more of a dynamic range, but the headphone bass and the Soccer Punch are somewhat the same, so either one would be fine. But this just made it to where it tightened the dynamic range overall, and the headphone bass tightened the dynamic range and the EQ when it came to low frequencies practically. Mono audio I didn't touch. Down here I didn't touch any of this. And for hit marker presets, I run classic. You can also run the other one, doesn't really matter. Voice chat volume, I have it at 60. You guys can change this, it doesn't matter. The voice chat output I have on speakers. For anyone that's running like an Elgato, you're going to want this on speakers so you can pick up people's voices if you want them in your video. But if you don't, I mean, you can have it on headset. But I just feel like this is definitely what you want if you guys are trying to get like reactions and videos and stuff like that. If you guys got an Elgato, you're wondering why you can't pick up people's voices in game chat, now you know you want this on speakers. This will allow your Elgato to pick it up. Microphone level is 100, and I didn't touch any of this. Now onto the interface. I didn't touch any of this. Server latency and packet loss, I'll turn this on, of course. I want to know when I'm lagging or not. For the color customization, you guys can change this. I have it on these colors, just makes it to where they stand out a little bit more. Enemies are pink, which I feel like they kind of glow a little bit more in the dark rather than red does, so that's why I have it on pink. I have contest on red because you can clearly see A, B, or C red. It is very, very bright, so you can't miss it. So I felt like red was good for that because it was different from all the other colors. But you guys can swap this to whatever color you guys want. Whatever you guys feel like is the best color for you to see, then just do that. Squad colors, I didn't change at all. The color filter 2, have it on both targets and just have it at max. For the game hub, I have the minimap on square. It gives you more map, as you guys can see in the demonstration. Circle's not even in the equation. Minimap rotation, you guys can have this on or off. I have it on so the map rotates with me. It just makes it a little bit easier to see. Compass type, this just makes it to where it's either at the top in the middle, kind of like how it was in Modern Warfare 2019, or you can have it wrapped around your minimap, which is practically how I have it on, which I don't really use the compass in general, but you guys can if you'd like. Change it to whatever, but I just feel like it's perfectly fine on the map. I didn't touch any of this. Player names full, of course. Crosshairs, I have it on static. This makes it to where when I jump, my sight doesn't move. If you guys ever like jumped and you know your sight goes up, and when you land, it bounces all the way down and then goes back up and recenters. Static doesn't do that. It just makes it to where your sight doesn't move, so your sight will already be on your enemy the moment you stop shaking practically. Crosshair dot I have on, of of course, you're going to want this on. I have it on larger, so it's a little bit easier to see. You can go with the largest, which has the big dot at the end. I felt like normal default was just too small. You could also change the color of it. So if you guys feel like green is better for you to see, then go with green, red, purple, whatever color you feel like is the most visible. And going down here, visual hit markers, of course, you want to know when you're landing your shots. And I didn't touch any of this besides the minimap opacity. I slightly lowered it just to make it a little bit more transparent. But you guys can leave it at 100 or even lower it if you want to kind of help see anyone that's possibly behind your minimap if that's the case. But yeah, anyways, these are my BO6 settings. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think on them and what do you guys want to see me post up on next in Black Ops 6. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to slap on the post notifications so you miss the latest and greatest videos. And I'll see you later, guys. Peace.